Welcome to Morning Infusion with Dr. V, where we are intentional about connecting you with leaders that have overcome so that you know that the possibilities are endless. It's Dr. V here, where our coaching program teaches nurses to work from your computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning your own time. Our featured guest today is Kimberly Hinton, one of my really good friends. I've had all my friends on this week. I'm so excited. So Kimberly has been a nurse for 20 years, in which she started her nursing career as a certified nursing assistant and worked her way up the ladder to her current position as a nurse practitioner. For the last 7 years, Kimberly has worked as a nurse practitioner in infectious disease, which is a big hot topic all the time. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So now, what was your rationale for becoming a nurse?
You know what? I'm going to be honest. Nursing was never the career that I chose initially. It When I say it chose me, it really did. I was always intrigued by the legal field, and that was something that I wanted to do. Uh, I met a girl when I was trying to find myself. I was working as a bank check processor at night, and she brought the idea to me, a coworker, and she was like, she was very passionate about nursing. It was something that she always wanted to do, and she was like, "Hey, why don't you just, you go back to school and become an LPN?" And I was like, why not? So I went to the local technical um, school, and I applied, and I missed the LPN program on the TEAS test by like 2 points. So they said, why don't you just take the patient care assistant program, and you can get your home health care and you can go from there. And that's where it all started, actually. And now I'm here.
I love it. I love it. I love it. You just didn't stop, and I like that because a lot of times what happens is people, well, I missed it. Lord, this is not the place for me. Well, it is the place for you because you've been successful in it. So now, what unit did you begin your nursing career, and why this unit?
Medical surgical. That's the
Okay.
start. That's where you're gonna gain all your experience. Um, but you know what? I had some good old nurses that really took me under their wing and reared me, and I'm so grateful for that time as an LPN, and then as an RN, I transitioned into acute trauma care.
Okay. Okay. I think one of the things that I liked about med surg is it gave me the basis. Like I was on a med tele unit, and so it gave me the basis for my nursing career. But um, one of the things I remember, I had a patient that came in, and the patient had a high white count. And I just didn't know, like his white count was like 60. Like he was newly diagnosed. He was being newly diagnosed with leukemia. And I remember us needing to fly him out. And on the floor, we had a nurse who had been she had been a trauma nurse, like she had worked in the emergency department.
Mm-hmm.
And I was literally running back and forth because I couldn't recognize whether it was a whether I got to run or whether I don't.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's one thing that attracted me to the ER, because I wanted to know whether do I have to run, or whether I don't want to expend the energy. I have to. I was like, ain't nobody got time to be running if I don't need to run, right? And so literally that was one of the reasons. And like I had a patient with a triple A, and I was like, do I need to run? What's going on with this? Like you don't, like the certain disease processes, you don't know that knowledge and you don't get that. It comes with experience, right? And so I got, with the triple A, we need to run. With
Yeah.
that white count of 60, I mean, he's going, I need to run, but, not as fast. So you went back and got an advanced practice degree. Now, why did you choose to go this route in your career?
You know what? Like I said, when I started as a CNA, LPN, RN, and I was actually in the bachelor's program. And I had this one professor. She like really impressed upon us, you need to go back to school and get your advanced degree. And she was just explaining to us why, because she had her doctorate degree. And she was like, you know, this would be the best route to go. She was so pro DNP, advanced degree. And she just really, really, enlightened me. And she was one of the reasons why I went back, because
Gotcha.
I never thought that I would, you know, I never thought I would even go past my, RN degree. I just never seen that far. And once I got into the advanced, practice program, I did a lot of HIV outreach as an as an RN, where we went into the community and we spoke in churches, just to especially the Latino and Black communities, just really just speaking to women and empowering them. And that was my main focus, that I wanted to focus on in the NP program. And I never, in my whole entire life, realized that infectious disease was so broad, and it was so, so many different disease processes, and, the antibiotic, treatment and all those things. It was just wow. It was
Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, what are some of the challenges from going from a nurse to a nurse practitioner? Because I've heard that there's some challenges.
there is, even when I first received my RN degree, I struggled a little bit from transitioning from LPN to RN. And I had my nurse manager, she was like, Kim, you know what? It takes a couple of years for you to really get comfortable and be strong in your position. And one of the struggles was
Now,
just, go ahead.
how long were you an LPN before you became an RN?
I was an LPN for 4 years.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, go ahead.
And then I was an RN for like 9 years.
Okay, all right.
So with me personally, I didn't really have that support system. Um, it was finances, but I still pushed through. Um, and then even your peers, they're not. Some of them say they are for you, and oh, it's good to go back, but they're they're on the sidelines, praying for your fall. So those are things that motivated me. Um, those were some of the challenges I think that I had.
You know what? I think that it too makes a difference, because when I went from, because I was an LPN first initially as well, but when I went from my LPN to my RN degree, I guess it depends on your motivation behind it. When I went because I wanted to become an RN. I wanted to go down to the emergency department because I was tired of, I was too old. Ain't nobody got time to be running when I don't need to run again. Okay. And so I that was my motivation behind going. And I think one of the things that I struggle with is that you're initially, I mean, like, you're pushed into a leadership role when you become an RN. I mean, very quick, because you have the experience, right? And so, and a lot of times you're not, like, you don't have that leadership ability. I didn't have that leadership ability, right? I knew how to run a tight ship, but I didn't necessarily know how to, really, really nurture my staff. And that's one of the things that I struggled with. But it was one of the things that propelled me into what my career choices are today. So, I always say that things don't happen to you, they always happen for you. So that was a good thing. So now you became an infectious disease nurse practitioner. What about infectious disease was an attraction?
It was initially, like I said, when I was in the NP program, my main focus was basically, you know, HIV and women, and just empowering and educating that community. The women who were positive, just empowering them to continue to adhere to their treatment, and and that they can live a longer life. And for the women who were not positive, empower them to, take their life back and take control of their life and say no to situations that they don't even need to put themselves in. So that was mainly my focus. And actually, I mean, it's like things just, they just fall into my lap. I actually went on this interview and I was looking for a job. I'm going everywhere trying to find a job as an MP. And I went into this, I was called for an interview to this particular place, which is now my place of employment. And I was there waiting on them to come. And I'm like, oh, where are these people? And then finally they came, and I was interviewing for internal medicine primary care position, but while I was there, the woman, she was like, um, she was talking about her MP leaving, and she's an infectious disease doctor, and she was saying all these things, and I left there that day, indecisive, and I was like, I really don't want to do this primary care position, but I been looking for a job for so long. But I called her back and I was honest with her and I told her, look, the internal medicine primary care position is not something I want to do. Um, but this infectious disease position seems very intriguing to me. And she was like, it's very hard. You have to know a lot and so on and so forth. And I don't know. That's what she said. She said, I said, you know what? If you take the time to train me, I will learn and I will work hard. And I said, the ball is in your court. So she said, I'll call you back and let you know. She called me right back. And she said, you know what? My husband, I talked to him and he said, you know what? You have to give people a chance. And she gave me a chance. And when I tell you the first month was a struggle, I prayed and I just talked to God and I said, look, I'm giving this one more week, and if it doesn't work out, I'm gone. And at that, I've been there ever since, and that's been 7 years ago.
I love it. I love it. Now, when you um when you talk about the fact that you gave her the ball and you put it in her court. And I love that because you're set in what you want. Once you decide what you want, then that is huge. Now tell me why it was such a hard struggle to find a job. What's the deal with the NP field? And
The oh, go ahead.
go ahead, in your state, or is it more, I mean, is it nationwide?
It's nationwide. It's oversaturated. It's not basically what you know. It's who you know
Ah,
to um to obtain these positions. Even more now because these schools are um they're dumping out NPs and RNs at a rapid rate now. It didn't used to be like that several years ago, but now it is, and this is where we're at. And it's a struggle finding a job, and I know some of my peers that have not been able to find a job for 2 years. They're still working at RNs at the bedside or in some other um, administrative position. They just can't find a job.
wow, wow. Well, I think you need to come to North Carolina just because I want you here, and because I don't think it's oversaturated here. You now tell us what is antibiotic stewardship, because when I've first heard this, I was like, "What is that?" So tell me about that. What is that?
We actually initiate the first antibiotic stewardship program at the facility where
You
I
want to do it? You want to do it? I
has
love it.
my infectious disease. She's a real go getter. I can say that, and she's taught me, oh my God, so much. But I was receptive. It was hard, but I was receptive. Anyway, antibiotic stewardship is basically it's a program that is put in place to kind of nurture physicians and clinicians to not overuse antibiotics, unnecessarily or inappropriately, and basically you just kind of guide them, and it helps to, decrease the multi-drug resistant infections, in the community and in the hospital by using, lower, more effective antibiotics, that is going to do the same thing. A lot of times, you know, um, some clinicians practice, and they're not, cultures that are taken, which will guide the antibiotic treatment. And a lot of times those cultures are not taken, and they're just given antibiotics, which can lead, increased costs, increased hospitalization, and lead to hospital associated as well, healthcare associated, as well as community infections like Clostridium difficile or C. diff. So, which is deadly, can really, especially in certain populations like the elderly. So, this program is just put in place to basically decrease overuse and inappropriate use of antibiotics.
I love it. I love it. Now, tell us a little bit about superbugs like MRSA and MDRO. And I know that we're saying those acronyms, but tell us what those acronyms mean, right? And how are were they formed, and what are some of the things that the public can do to prevent them?
So, MRSA is methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus infection, which is basically a staph infection that is resistant to methicillin, penicillin based antibiotics, which can be very virulent. They are caused by, they are seen, I, I'll say, in, people, skin infections that you see out in the community, like we call them boils, but abscesses. Also inside the hospital, you can see them in um, surgical devices like pacemakers, heart, like knee joints, shoulders. You can see endocarditis, which is an infection of the heart valve, and basically how you prevent these infections, as well as I'll talk about multi-drug resistant, but MRSA, how you can prevent is just basically hygiene, hand washing, because the mode of transmission is these right here, and people don't realize that the fingers, transmit bacteria everywhere, and with these boils or abscesses, we call them in the healthcare world, the fluid that comes out of these, the pus that comes out, is very highly contagious. Wherever you touch, you can transmit that infection there. It can be on your clothes, it can be on your sheets. You can transmit it from husband to wife because they're in the bed together. And, also in the nose, is you walk around with it in your nose. So hand washing is the main thing.
That
And
you need to do. I love it. I love it. Now tell us what eclampsia is and what are some of the things, and you, which I found out after I sent these questions, so what are some of the things that a nurse can do to prevent them? So after I sent this question, apparently you done wrote an article and you're a published author, but you never told me that. I just wanted to point that out. But anyway, go ahead. Tell us about eclampsia. What is that?
Clap C is basically central line associated bloodstream infections. And you see these infections, you see them in the hospital. You can also see them in patients that leave the hospital with what we call PIC lines, which is a peripheral inserted central line catheter that is very deep into the bacillary vein, and it sits at the tip of the heart. Um, Basically, these infections, when they're in the hospital, they are healthcare associated infections, and they are adhere to the line that is placed. And what we've done in our facility was that we did a retrospect review over a 5 year span of all of the PIC line infections or CLABC infections within the hospital, and how we can reduce those rates. And what we did was they implemented a midline, um, which is it's just a deep peripheral IV. It's just like a regular IV line, but it's a little deeper and a little longer, and it's not as invasive. And this, by utilizing this specific program, we reduced the PIC line, healthcare associated Clap C infections at an astronomical rate. So
Wow.
um, so basically, how to prevent this is again hand washing, using aseptic, clean technique when changing the dressing. Also, we tell patients when they go home with the pick line, to keep it clean and dry. Try to not get in the shower and saturate the line because when there are dark, warm places, bacteria will grow. And these lines are covered with uh, um, a clear dressing. So there are chances that water, sweat can get under these dressings and adhere to that line and can cause a bloodstream infection, basically.
So now the midline. So can the patient go home with that midline? So if it's a pick, so if they have to have antibiotics and they have to go home with it, can they do it with the midline as well?
Yes, some patients can. A midline can stay in place for 30 days. But there has to be a receiving facility like a rehab facility or a receiving entity like a home health company that is agreeable to the patient going home with that line. And antibiotics like vancomycin, which is very caustic on the veins, you can't run it through a midline. They have to have a pick line.
So that's the difference between a pick line and a midline. So there's certain antibiotics. Are there others other than Vanc?
Um, mainly it's vancomycin. TPN can
Okay,
run through a midline. It has to be a pick line. Um, but antibiotics like vancomycin, a lot of those class of antibiotics can be very toxic on the vein. So you have to put in a pick line that's going to be more sturdy.
gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, well, I learned something new today. So now tell us about a book that has impacted your life and why was it so impactful?
TD Jakes, letting
Mm,
go. Um, it just even in this time in my life, I have learned, just to let things go that have weighed me down for so many years. And this book has it really impacted my life and just helped me just to see things different and just let me know that things are not as though they seem, and you're not hurting the person that you're holding a grudge against or the situation. You're hurting yourself and you're wearing yourself down. So that was a very impactful book for me.
I love that. Um, what's his name? Why can't I'm thinking Tyler Perry, Lord have mercy. Anyway, so I was thinking about him and his quote what he said about, people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And the problem is that we put lifetime expectation on seasonal folks. And the problem is that we don't understand that. We don't understand that they're just there for the season. They're there to teach you something. They're there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And how you tell those people is that the people that are there for a reason, like they're like the leaves on the tree, right? They
Yeah,
blow back and forth, and then if the wind blows too hard, then they off the tree, right? And then you have the branches on the tree, they're there for a season, and you think that they're going to be there for a long time, but then when the weight gets too heavy, then if you stand on them, then they break, right? But then a few people you have as the root of the tree, and those people who are the root of the tree that are always there, that are always stable, those are the people that are there for the lifetime, and has truly, truly changed how I look at people and how I think about people. So I love, love, love that. Now tell us about a person that has impacted your life and why were they so impactful?
you know what? I was thinking about that question, and I don't think it's one person. I think it's just the men and women that I have met, throughout my life that have impacted me in one way or the other. From uh, my mom to my sister, to some of my professors, my my boss. Uh, Now, I mean, she taught me a lot of things, and then Dr. V and the
Yeah.
that I met on this journey, through the cohort. It's just they have been very impactful. And at a space that I was in my life when I met Dr. V and these other women that was in the last cohort, I was in a very tough space in my mind. And it really, that cohort was a different journey for me. I know that it was about, building a business. At the same time, it was about letting go for me and moving on, so it's just the women that I have met on my journey that have been very impactful.
And so the backstory is that Kimberly and I kind of met on Clubhouse, and we just really clicked. And I, of course, I do business coaching, and she said she wanted to be a part of the cohort, and so she was a part of the April cohort, and so we came March, I think is when. No, it was April, right? And so and we just kind of started, and the women that were in that cohort are just phenomenal women. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal. So I just thank you for trusting me with that journey. Thank you for you being amazing as you are, because let me tell you, it has been, I mean, from the time that we started to now, it's been completely different. And I love the joy in your eyes that I see, that it's very different than what it was when we started. So, yay, we got to work it out. So, we will be starting another cohort of VP Nursing Business Academy in October. It is a 6-month comprehensive program that leads nurses and coaches working from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time. If this interests you, we can jump on a call so that you are able to gain clarity on how to create multiple streams of income. You can sign up at V as Victor, P as in Paul, nursing.com. I ask that you like and share this share this podcast. Um, and just know that, Morning Infusion with Dr. V is where we are intentional about connecting you with leaders such as Kimberly, who have overcome, so that you know that the possibilities are endless. You guys have a phenomenal rest of your day.